Hey guys, it's Jessica. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I'm glad you're here. I'm having so much fun interviewing these businesses, and I really think you'll find the information we share to be of great value. My business is Organic Girl Health Coaching, and I get to help moms go from not feeling so good to feeling amazing. We do this with using food and herbs. We're detoxing, we're cleansing at the cellular level. If you have any questions, you can reach out on my website, jessicadavisrn.com, or through social media. I am Organic Girl Health Coaching. Have a blessed day. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Organic Girl Health Coaching podcast, where we are helping holistic-minded moms find businesses that align with them. I hope you're all having a fabulous day, whatever day you are watching this. I'm Jessica, Organic Girl Health Coaching, and today I have my friend Kim on. Hey, Kim.
Hey.
So, I'm interviewing Kim today, and I always like to share just a quick story about all of the people that I interview, because I have cool stories with all my people. So I love it. But Kim and I have known each other probably, I think it's either 3 or 4 years. The last 4 years have been I think for a lot of us, a little bit of a blur, but it was either 2020 or 2021. And we met. Do you remember the year?
2021. Yeah.
2021. Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to go back and look that up. Kim and I met at a real estate open house, and I just connected with her energy right away. So, and you guys watching this or listening to this will catch on to it as well. Kim's awesome. She's got great energy, a great spirit. And she and I started talking kind of about business and finances. And of course, I was just getting started in my entrepreneurial journey. And so it was very interesting to me. And we started kind of working together a little bit. And she helped with some of my the skills that I've been working on. So appreciate her. And she does have a background in management, and she'll talk about that, I'm sure, and developing leaders. She's, again, wonderful at that. And cool thing that I'm sure she'll talk about is she did grow up overseas. That's an interesting story, too. And I think you just got back from where you grew up as well. So sure we'll hear about that. So... yeah, the mystery. Yes. I love it. So yeah, Kim is super cool. She's an amazing person. I'm so glad that God's put her in my life. And so, so again, I like to interview all my podcast guests on their 3 Bs, their bio, beliefs, and business. So first off, Kim, just tell us all about you, all the juicy details.
The juicy details. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. I'm so privileged and honored to be here, and excited to be able to share with moms and your audience, and just be able to talk about some of these things, right? Like, we're going to talk about a lot of different areas, and both of our goals would be to provide value and resources and connect with, people and be able to help people move forward. So I think it has been around just over 3 years that we've known each other. And when I met you, Jessica, I was really impressed with obviously your background in healthcare and serving people, your commitment to taking care of others. But then you were on this entrepreneurial journey, and that excited me to be like, man, are there ways that I can help support you? And obviously you're an incredible mom. You've gone through a ton of challenges and heroically fought through a number of battles in your own life. And so your story is impressive and incredible as well. So I'm super glad to be able to, obviously call you a friend, be able to work together and collaborate in different areas in business. And it's really fun. So as far as my background, so I grew up in Japan. I was born and raised there as a missionary kid. And so my parents have a strong Christian faith, and they spent almost 40 years in Japan. And so me and my siblings, I grew up with 6 siblings, and we had a big family. We grew up in a little mountain, remote town in the hills of Japan. And we had a ton of challenges and a ton of fun. I got to live in this just this world that doesn't exist anywhere else. We were up on the mountain. We were all homeschooled. We were each other's best friends. We had our own, we had enough siblings to make our own soccer teams at the park and, and hiked a ton. We were outdoors a lot. And my parents, really taught us a ton of different areas in creativity. And my business journey actually started as a kid because my dad would run a little bit, we did an English teaching business. And so,
oh my goodness.
so I started helping him with curriculum design and teaching.
Wow.
We made videos and recorded things. We learned how to do 3D animation and how do you, do, DVDs and, market and promote and all these things. And I started helping him when I was about 11, 12 and did that all throughout from there until I moved, at 18, 19. So yeah, so that's a little bit about my background and kind of where I came from. And then once I, finished high school, I then moved to the US and acclimated and tried to figure out what the heck does that mean? How do I live life? All of my norms, were in one place, and then now it's shifting dramatically, and I look like I should belong in the US. I look like I shouldn't be an immigrant, and I don't sound like it either, but when I first moved there were so many like cultural differences and mindsets, and so that was a pretty crazy transition, but I found myself, based out of Kansas City, and I really found an amazing community through my school and then through church communities in different areas that just some incredible friends that really stepped in as like kind of like adopted parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters. And that made the world of difference, to really be able to live life and do what we do.
Yeah. So how long do you think it took kind of for that culture shock? How long did that transition kind of take for you?
To be honest, it's ongoing.
Okay.
There's still pieces. So you mentioned I just got back from Japan. So I took a trip back with my sisters, and this was such an amazing trip back. And it was honestly really healing. So this, it's been 4 years since I've gone back for me. So since COVID and all of the shutdown and all of that. And this was the first time to go back. My parents in between that time, my parents moved back to the US. And so they sold our house. We don't have a home there, anymore. And so a lot of things have changed. And so I kind of wondered how it would be like going back this was the first time to go back kind of like a tourist, to be honest. Like I didn't have, I'm not just going back to my parents' home and fitting into the culture and everything that's there and home cooked meals and all that stuff. And it was really special. We had such a good time, and I went with my two of my sisters, and we had a blast and traveled. We did a whole bunch of different cities, and it really, I think it just was really special to me to be able to go, and discover that there's still something about Japan that's home. And then when I came back, it's like, oh, but there's something about here in the US that's also home. And for the first time, it felt like it can be a both and. And I think that honestly, for the last number of years, I've felt like it had to be an either or. Like, so I'm trying to be either, when I'm in Japan, I'm trying to be Japanese, but obviously I don't look Japanese at all. And when I'm in the US, I'm trying to be American, but then there's all these just environmental things that you just grow up in that are different, and you don't always have words to explain the differences, but they're just different. And this is the first time just literally the last few weeks, I feel like I'm like, wow, this is starting to be more normal to be both. And so for me, I think that's a huge piece of how, my mindset and worldview and perspective are just different. But it's really served me well in helping people. And so I actually studied music and theology when I first moved here. And then I got into business, and studied business, got into restaurant management. I was just working as a server, and I was like, I'm going to pay my way through college and do that. And ended up, I'm super grateful. My parents taught me a really great work ethic, and so I just worked, and I love learning. That was another thing that they really passed on to me. And so I saw at work this challenge of how much can I learn? It's like they're paying me, but really I'm here. Like, how much could I learn? to be able to learn different skill sets for free when you're at a workplace, to me is like a no-brainer. Like, they'll literally teach you for free. You don't even have to pay them to teach you how to do different things. So I just started learning every position in the restaurants that I'd work at. And it's amazing how when you do that, it's pretty natural to get promoted, and, and they start giving you more responsibility, and they're like, wait, you know how to do this and this and this. Like, how about you be a shift lead? And then how about you be an assistant manager? And how about you be the general manager? And so I ended up, doing a lot of years of restaurant management and leadership development and training and coaching new employees. I loved it. And that's kind of, COVID happened, and I was actually looking to switch out of the industry before COVID happened, but that definitely helped a little bit in the decision-making process. And that's where I ended up starting my business. So I'm, 4 years in now of my financial consulting business, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But really, those were kind of the events that led up to it. But each of those areas of life, like, it grew in me a passion for helping people, and really this passion for, like, how do I help set people up well? Because I think even just the complexity of life growing up in, different places, like growing up overseas and then moving here, and it's like, man, how do we help people really thrive regardless of where they came from and what they're trying to do? It's like often we all need to learn skill sets and bridge that gap between what we were trained in or what we grew up in or what we learned to then what we're trying to, do and function in life. And there's often a gap, and I'm passionate about helping bridge that for people,
Is the gap, so I know you said you would have a hard time with words with describing the difference between Japan and America, but what would you see as like some of the differences in maybe mindset or work ethic? Maybe those two.
Yeah.
Between.
It's fascinating, the differences. And I've started to also start recognizing some of the similarities. So both are obviously modern, societies, both, people have jobs and people work and people go to work and they dress up and they have cars and electronics and all of those things that are similar, Wi-Fi, food and grocery stores and all those things. But some of the major differences are some worldview beliefs. So, if I was to try to describe it simply, and, there's lots of nuances and differences, it's hard to fit any culture in that box. But in general, my experience has been that, like, America tends to be, let's say in interactions, tends to be more open and friendly in initial interactions. And Japan would tend to be more polite and formal in initial interactions. So if I was to meet somebody, I might be like politely greet them in Japan, and in America, I might say, hey, how are you doing? Even though I don't know them. It's like, wow, that's actually quite a personal question in a different context, and it's actually a very common, it's almost like a greeting in the US, or things like, Americans tend to like independence and individuality. So, we like space. We like our elbow room. We don't want to be confined. We like to make our own decisions when ordering food at a restaurant. Like we might, if you're ordering a hamburger, I might decide, I'll order this thing instead, even if I had been ordering the same hamburger as you, like, it's like not always, but that kind of can happen. And Japan tends to have much more of a group mentality, like everyone's together, belonging, fit in. I've heard a story, and this wasn't necessarily my experience, but my dad told a story of like a group of business people that went to a restaurant, and they're all kind of waiting for someone to decide what to order. And when someone decided, they actually all ordered the same thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so just kind of some of those things where it's just a mindset difference, and it's then actually amazing if you can kind of glean from some of the benefits from each. Right. You start having another one is conflict, how people handle conflict. They're going to tend to, again, this is generalized, but tend to talk it out. Let's argue it. Let's have an opinion. Let's, and it's okay to disagree, but it's also okay to tell each other that we disagree. And Japanese culture is very much more passive and roundabout in that. Like, I'm much less likely to directly confront you on something that I disagree with. I'm probably going to kind of a little bit roundabout. I'm going to a little bit beat it back around the bush more. And the part of it is honor and helping people. There's a phrase called saving face. You don't want to humiliate or shame somebody. So if I come and say, Jessica, I disagree with this thing and you're wrong. If I do that, in a Japanese society, it's like, oh, you didn't give Jessica any way out without admitting fault or becoming argumentative and saying and disagreeing. But either way, you didn't give her an ability to save face. Whereas if I come and say, hey, Jessica, I'm probably misunderstanding something, or maybe I interpreted this wrong, or maybe this thing was stated wrong, but it seems there may be a disagreement here in this concept. I just gave you a lot of outs in a lot of ways to basically come to an agreement without having to essentially say that we disagree. Now,
that's cool.
For most Americans, though, it's like that is way too time consuming, and it's like not a big deal. For Americans, it's not a shameful thing to disagree. It's actually a very normal part of life. And in kind of that group mentality, it can be a much bigger deal to disagree in that culture. So again, kind of some generic things. I'm sure some people will disagree with me, but that's kind of my experience of some of the differences.
Yeah. Very interesting. And so I have a curious question just because of my background with like health and stuff. Do you feel like the Japanese culture, as far as like what they eat and their activity and all that, is healthier than the general American population?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That was quick. That was quick.
Absolutely.
I knew the answer. I just wanted to hear
I don't think there's any way to compare it. Like even, like even just something as simple, we just went back and we, took public transportation everywhere. We were averaging, somewhere between 18 and 23,000 steps a day because of just walking up and down and hiking all these mountains and train stations and bus stops and getting to and from places. And, and in my American lifestyle, like I drive most places, like I don't get that many steps in at all, So just something as simple as that, let alone food, we definitely noticed a huge difference in the food quality in different ways. And it's a big difference.
I got to ask, it's always so interesting. How it's so different here in the United States, but well, so kind of transitioning into beliefs. And, that can be like just your personal values or your business values. And you, again, I'm curious, you may have, slightly different ones maybe based on your upbringing and your background. But so what would you consider your overall main kind of beliefs or values in life that make up Kim?
First off, I grew up as a Christian from my parents, faith, but that really became personal for me probably when I was around like 11 or 12. That's when it like I came into a real relationship with Jesus and started, looking at what does that actually mean? And that's a huge piece of it. There's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of really big challenges and even losses in our family and in friendships and different things that I've experienced. And really that anchor of knowing that there is a God and he's really watching out. And I think something that's been comforting to me. So we did kind of a fun fact. We did some writing, creative story writing in school. And in the Bible, it talks about God as being the author of our faith. And I've often thought about if God's a really good author in the hard moments of my life, in the confusing moments of my life, in the devastating moments of my life, the reality is that any good storyline actually has all of it. It's really boring if you read a book that everything's just like monotone and super simple and easy and boring. It's like nobody reads those books, and it's the stories where we see the challenges that have to be overcome, the battles that have to be overcome, the strong, positive and negative emotions. And so I just am really comforted by that, man, we've got a really good author and he's going to work things out, and God's going to, we may not even know it in this, in our lifetime, but someday we're going to see how it all ties together. And some of the things that, I think that's the other thing too, and it ties into some of my business practices, but really the authentic belief that God sees all things and that there is going to be an accountability process, at the end of the day. And that then, there's so many things that in business or in life that people don't see. Like they don't see what I do behind the scenes. They don't see what I do, on my days off. They don't see what I do when no one else is in the building, but God does. And so integrity in all times of our life is important. And that I'm so grateful for, because, it's like, I mean, that's just like so huge, and it's such a good way to live life. And so I'm really grateful that obviously a lot of that was exemplified by my parents, and then carried on, but that would be like some of my beliefs. And then obviously some of the beliefs around doing the right thing, right, whether people see it or not, helping people, and really, like, I guess I've got a vision of, like, if God's given us gifts and abilities, like, I feel responsible to steward those things in such a way that serves people. It should be something that I use gifts and abilities, and I'm grateful that God's given me a lot of gifts and abilities, and it's like I shouldn't be hoarding those up or hiding them or using them just for my own personal gain. Like, they should be in a way that serves people, helps people, builds people, and hopefully one by one, it's kind of like the ripple effect that we all dream of doing something big in our life, and hopefully that little ripple effect can actually be something that could create a positive change in the world, and it just starts one by one.
Whole parable on that one, isn't there? The talent. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so then I guess that transitions really well probably into your business. And so would love to have you talk about what you can do to help moms, what your business does to help moms, and just share on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I'm really passionate about is, like, how do we really help people, right? And so in our business, so I've started about 4 years ago, I started a financial consulting practice, and we're with a non-captive firm and brokerage, which just what that means is it allows us to have access to a lot more resources and diversity of resources than if I worked for a firm that only had one company that we worked with or one specific set of products or resources. So coming in, though, I didn't have a background in finance. To be honest, my parents were missionaries and they didn't have a ton of money, and they taught me how to stay out of debt and how to save a little bit, but they didn't teach me how to build wealth or how much I should be saving or, retirement or anything like that. And so I was grateful for the foundation they gave, but then there were these huge missing gaps that I just was like, where do I find this? And then I was like, it's really confusing. I sat down with some different financial consultants, and I felt overwhelmed. I felt kind of scared that I was going to make a poor decision, or they were just going to try to, push me into whatever they had. I didn't know. I felt kind of overwhelmed by the jargon and the terminology. There's a lot of fear of what the market's doing and economy and all these things, right? And just uncertainty. So I actually just pushed pause. Like, I talked to some people, but then I never made a decision. And I knew I needed to do something. I just didn't know what, and I didn't know how to know who to trust and how to find out about it. So when my sister started actually working with our firm, we have our firm is structured very similar to like real estate, where it's an agency-based model. So she started working with a team, an amazing team, and learning a ton. And she started talking to me about, like, the mission of our company is no family left behind. And how do we really get financial education into the hands and start there, right? We got to educate people versus just try to slap on solutions to people, And I love that. I was like, man, that sounds like, it sounds like it's a nonprofit almost, but it really is a profit business, but we just do things a little differently. So I kind of like to describe it as like, we're a holistic financial, consulting firm, and the goal would be, let's look at every aspect of life, and I love this. It's like, you're really passionate about health, and there's so many things that stress impacts health and well-being, right? Physically. And one of the largest stressors in life comes down to money.
Money.
So it all ties together, right? And so if we help relieve some stress in the money category, it leads to less stress, and that can help us live more healthy and happy and joyful, purposeful lives,
Absolutely.
And so that's something that I loved, and taking a really holistic approach, Sometimes I describe it like we wanted to take the industry and flip it inside out. So what we recognized with that is that there's biases. There's three major branches in the finance. There's banking, securities, and insurance. And they all have great resources, but they don't always work together.
Talk together. Yeah.
And so we were like, well, what if we just took all three and we started having them work together so we could custom build things for families? And I love that. And then we said, well, what if we could do it for free? And we're like, the finance industry is one of the highest paid industries in the planet. So if we're going to be competitive in our pay and attract and retain the top talent in the nation, right? How do we do that? But if we're really wanting to, help single moms and help parents and help retirees and help the multi-billionaires or those who are barely making it, ideally we'd love to do it for free. And so what we figured out is that we got so many companies together to be basically, we're like the Amazon of the financial industry. So we have like over 100 companies that we can shop out, pit against each other, figure out what's going to be the best option for debt management or life insurance protection or auto insurance or retirement planning or estate planning, right? So all these things, maybe cash flow and budgeting. And we figure out which companies and solutions are going to be best for this specific client, and so when we find that, we're going to help put the client in a better situation, unique to their specific story. And then instead of turning around and sending the invoice to my client and the families I'm working with for my time and the strategy and the knowledge and the education, instead, and this is what I love, is I turn around and I send the invoice to these companies that we just placed business with. And I love that. So they basically, because they just got a referral technically through us. So they pay referral compensation. So it works out for them. It's a win-win for them. I get paid and my team gets paid, and we're growing and aspiring right now. And, but then the client gets to have all of those resources and someone in their corner fighting on their behalf to find the best fit completely for free. And that when I heard it, so I started working with her on her team. And then now we've both, it's been so fun. It's like getting to work with my sister in business and grow together. And we both we both promoted where we're running our own branches and our own independent businesses at the same month. And it's just so incredible. So we get to really run our own practices and be able to serve families. But I love that it's got that connection with family too, that, it's been able to build that bond even stronger.
Yeah. Awesome. So there's that component. And is there another component if anyone's interested in what you do?
Yeah. So obviously from the client side, that's what we do all day, right? And I've got an amazing team. And then, but the other thing too of how we can help families is on actually building a business with us. And so we've got a very similar business model to real estate where we're currently actively interviewing actually. Okay. And so we're actively interviewing, and we've got some different remote part-time positions that people can start up. Everybody's going to be 1099. So some people aren't comfortable with that. Some people love that, but everybody's going to be 1099. It gives them the ability to work for themselves, but not by themselves. And then my team basically helps train someone like me, who didn't even have a background in finance, or we've got a lot of people that actually move from very well-known finance companies to work with us because
really, interesting.
We've just got a lot more freedom in both the products and services we're able to help with, and also actually the scalability that someone can have in the finance industry. We've just got a really good business platform for that. So it's very, there's no caps on the income. But then there's no quotas. So we have some people that are super part-time and they just help a few clients a year. And they're able to bring in a little bit of extra income for a vacation, or maybe to pay down their house faster, or pay off some debt that they were trying to do, or buy the, jet ski that they always wanted, or whatever it is. And then we've got people that really start learning and they start, building it into a career change where they're like, wow, I can actually build something that I can own and it makes a difference in people's lives. And they, eventually they might start part-time and maybe they go full-time and they actually start building their own business with their own, and the freedom that can come. So we work a lot with, your audience is moms. We've got a lot of moms that work with us. And what I've found, obviously I can't promise anything. There's a process to look at working with us. But what I have found is that moms are some of the most amazing, creative, they have ingenuity, they've got this ability to problem solve and make things happen, and then also often just a genuine care for people that, those are things that you can't teach. I can teach a lot of things about numbers. I can teach things how to use a piece of software. I can teach people how to understand the rules of money and have good mindset around that. But teaching someone how to genuinely care about someone or have integrity or how to do time management, I can teach some time management too. But there's some skills that are really nice that I'm always really impressed with the moms that I get to work with. And they're just phenomenal people.
Yeah. While screaming children are in the background. Or getting dinner cooked. Yeah, or something like that. Doing it all. So, well, awesome. Well, what does it look like to work with you, like the beginning steps? And what would kind of the beginning steps look like?
So really, it would just be a matter of getting in contact, and having a conversation. Typically, we're going to walk through an interview. I love when I'm recommended from somebody, like that's amazing. I love the referrals, especially with people that I work with, because there's often like just a connection and some trust that happens there. And so we'll walk through an interview, and if somebody qualifies to work with us, and we're really looking for people that are self-motivated, people that want to have it out from corporate, America and have another option, people that are looking to be able to build something for themselves, and maybe they have a dream of having more time freedom or passive income in the future, and they're willing to put in the work up front. Because like, Jessica, you're in business. There is an upfront work that has to happen, and it's not going to be easy. There's going to be rejection that comes along the way. There's going to be disappointments that happen along the way. There's going to be times that you feel super motivated and times that you feel super unmotivated, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't need somebody that's perfect, but we are looking for people that actually have like the grit and determination that they're like, no, I want to actually do something different, that I've done. Yeah. Or people that come from a background, they're like, man, I'd like to have more freedom, or I'd like to have more companies that I can represent. And we're able to offer that as well. And then basically if somebody passes an interview, there is a licensing process, and that does have to be paid to the state. There is some cost associated with being licensed in the financial industry, but we help people walk through that. I've got an amazing team that helps people know exactly what to study for, how to get that done. Usually people can get licensed. Most people have this idea that finance licensing is going to take months and years and be the most impossible thing they've ever done in their life. And it's actually not as hard as people think it is. And so usually people actually get licensed in like 2 weeks. And then we get through all the state paperwork and process, and they get up and going. And so it's not as huge of a deal as we tend to think about it when we're not in the industry.
Yeah, it sounds intimidating if you are from a completely different industry, right? But it's like anything else. You just have to do a little bit of studying, and you got it. I did it, so
medical stuff, and exactly. And you always like compared to that, and
and you work with people, whether it's a client or a possible business partner, all over the country, correct? Any state, correct?
Right.
Okay, because it's all virtual.
Great clarification. Yeah, so we are working in all 50 states, and then we do almost everything virtual. So since COVID, we pretty much switch everything virtual. Our consultations, our trainings. We've got, obviously some different cities that we've got a lot of agents in the same city, and we'll get together in person and we'll do different things. But it is really nice to have that flexibility to work remotely. We can work from anywhere. We cannot work, we really do. We only work with clients and honestly, our agents too. It's only US, Canada, and Mexico. So we can't do like Europe or something like that. As of now, the systems just work really different.
Sure. Yes. And probably even changing more. Who knows?
Yeah.
But awesome. Well, anything else that you can think of to share?
I think I would just give an encouragement. I'm in the finance industry, and I just know that it's really intimidating and hard to learn. So I would just encourage your audience, these amazing moms and families that are on here. It's hard to know what the next step is, but just take another step. and we're gonna transform our lives one step at a time. It's not gonna be like some magical thing, but getting people in your corner like Jessica, who can help be a great resource and help point you in the right direction, is an amazing start. And then I'm just trying to think of if I can share even like one little tidbit that could help people. I guess let me just share one thing. So we have like 3 rules of money that we tend to share with all our clients and our business partners, and one of them is what's called the rule of 72. And I'm just going to share this in like 30 seconds, and you can walk away with just something that will help in your financial journey. And so the rule of 72 was made famous by Albert Einstein. And he was just asking the question. It has to do with compound interest, which is basically you've got money, it grows interest. The interest gets dumped into the account, and then you grow interest the next time, including the interest that's in the account, right? So it builds on top of each other. And it takes a while, like anything, but it starts building that snowball effect and growing and growing. So we all are actually really familiar with compound interest, whether it's on credit cards or mortgage interest or car interest, or maybe we are already growing something in a 401k or stocks or Robinhood or cryptocurrency or maybe cash value life insurance or an annuity. But we don't know the impact of it. And so what Albert Einstein was looking at is how long does it take for money to double based on any given interest rate? And there's a really simple equation. We can be like the nerdiest or coolest person at the next party, but he figured out a simple equation. If you take 72, that's why it's called the rule of 72. 72, divide it by the interest that you're getting. You get the approximate numbers that it will take for that money to double once. So for example, let's say that someone has a bank account making 1%. Well, it's going to take them 72 years to double that money, right? So if they have $10,000 in the bank, it's going to take 72 years, then they'll have 20,000. But if they got 10% interest, that's doubling every 7.2 years. So if they have $10,000 in, 7.2 years later, they'll have $20,000. And then 7.2 years after that, they'll have $40,000, and so it starts building like that. But it also works in regards to debt too. And that's why sometimes people are like, it's so hard to get out of debt. I don't know how to do it. Or, and the reason is because compound interest is working against someone. So if they've got credit card debt at 24% interest, that's doubling against them at approximately 3 years. 3 years that, $5,000 turns into $10,000 into 50, and it just keeps increasing, I guess 10,000 into 20,000 for the doubling. And that's something that, really it's just a matter of fighting for the interest rates, but understanding sometimes people are confused. Why can I not get ahead? And it might be as simple as compound interest is working against them instead of for them. And so being able to look into how can we help, start resolving that is a big step. So that's just one free tip. I loved when I learned that. I was like, man, that makes so much sense. And it's kind of fascinating. You start running some things that, looking at what things you have interest rates on and just running some rough numbers, and you're like, that's interesting,
Yeah, I felt so smart after I had that little chart that with the amounts and then the interest rate. And I was like, oh, I can figure this out.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what we love to do is educate, help people start building a foundation, start having some terminology, and so that they can make really smart choices. And life changes, right? Things, I just know some of your story, right? It's like life has looked so different in different times, as you walk through the journey. My life has looked really different in different years. And so we need to have some of these foundational things so that we can make adjustments to our plan as well.
Yeah. So Kim, I'll put it in the description, but if you want to just let people know or the best ways, I guess, to get a hold of you, and then we'll put those in the description as well.
Awesome.
That would be the best.
Honestly, the best ways are connecting. So it's Kim Okerman. I guess I probably should stick my last name on the screen here, but and people can connect with me either through email or through LinkedIn. And then also, they can obviously reach out to you as well, and you could connect. I do have like a Calendly way that they could actually schedule like an appointment or a conversation.
Wonderful.
Free phone call. So we could list that on your description.
We can.
Yep. So that would be a great way. And then I've got like other ways as well. I always love a good old three-way text or something like that, because that just builds like that I know who referred me. But obviously, if they mentioned that they heard about us from your podcast, that would be awesome because I'll know where that came from.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being on with me today and sharing your 3Bs. And yeah, I hope to continue working with you. And thanks again. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening, and hope you have a beautiful day.
Take care.